I've noticed that a lot of people today who would formerly have referred to themselves as liberal or left-wing now prefer the term progressive, presumably because it sounds more, well, progressive. But there's a difference between being liberal and being progressive. I like liberals, but I don't like progressives. Even lefties are okay if they're the right sort of lefty, but progressives give me the creeps. Progressive sounds like a positive word, doesn't it? Brimming with the promise of bright new tomorrows. In reality, it means moving gradually, progressively, bit by bit, towards an ever more regulated, controlled and less free society where group identity trumps all and every casual remark is a potential hate crime. We'll have more and more equality and more fairness, and when we've had all the equality and fairness we can stomach, and then some, we'll have some more, whether we like it or not. It's the same agenda as revolutionary Marxism, only they want to do it gradually. Progressively, you know, like a disease. A liberal is a person who will defend your right to free speech even when they disagree with you. A progressive is a person who will defend someone else's right to shut you up because they find you offensive. A liberal sees the value in the free exchange of ideas and opinions. A progressive views these things as a threat to community cohesion. Liberals do what they believe is right. Progressives do what they believe is correct. Right and wrong don't come into it. Liberals tend to live and let live. Progressives tend to regulate and censor and meddle and interfere because progressives always know best for everyone. It's a gift they have. To a liberal, language is a tool. To a progressive, it's a weapon. The actual meaning of words is irrelevant as long as they can be used as heavy, blunt instruments to shut people up. Because progressives regard themselves as the sole arbiters of what people should and shouldn't be allowed to think and say, and they feel perfectly entitled to shout down opinions they disapprove of so that nobody else can hear them. Progressive students are particularly keen on this. In contrast, a liberal is open to another point of view. To a progressive, there is no other point of view. If you're not progressive, you must be far right, and if you take a dim view of Islam, you must be a racist. End of story. So, which are you? Liberal or progressive? You can't be both. The two words are opposites, in the same way that sanity and insanity are opposites. Multiculturalism is the ultimate progressive marquee word, of course, a rainbow-coloured confection that, like all progressive words, including the word progressive, means the opposite of what it says. There's nothing multicultural about an Islamic ghetto, and here in progressive Europe, Islamic ghettos have been the principal fruits of multiculturalism. As a result, Jews can no longer walk around several European cities without being attacked by gangs of Muslim immigrants, but nobody in the media wants to talk about it. It's not progressive enough. Besides, a progressive journalist would describe an unprovoked attack on a solitary Jew by a gang of Muslim thugs, if they reported it at all, as a conflict between communities. Because progressive journalists are not interested in the truth if the truth is incorrect. And this particularly applies in Scandinavia, whose media is impeccably progressive and therefore impeccably halal and full of the same kind of cultural hypocrites who got Pim Fortuyn murdered in the Netherlands and who then pretended to be shocked about it afterwards. In Sweden, the press is directly subsidised by their progressive government to hide the truth about the effects of their suicidally progressive immigration policy. They don't want people to know that their formerly civilised and peaceful country is now the rape capital of Europe, a situation exacerbated by the media's refusal to ethnically identify criminals because that information is not progressive. It might be helpful to the public and ethically right and proper to give people a true picture of reality, but it's not progressive, so it must be wrong. The truth must be wrong if the truth is incorrect. As a consequence, statistically, 1 in 4 Swedish women will now be raped during their lifetime, and every one of them can thank a progressive journalist. But if you thought Swedish journalists were the progressive scum of the earth and the absolute moral dregs of humanity, you would of course be correct, but say hello to a couple of new contenders from across the water in Denmark. You won't have heard about this story anywhere in the Western media because for all their bellyaching about free speech, they're too busy digging up celebrity gossip to do anything real to protect it, while people who are doing something at considerable risk to their own safety are routinely depicted in the media as extremists and hate mongers. Yet who is the extremist? A man who expresses a non-violent opinion, or the so-called journalist who chases him through the streets, hoping to pinpoint his location for a future Islamic assassin? Recently, when Danish freethinker Lars Hedegaard was forced to move house after an assassination attempt at his front door by an Islamic fanatic, the removal van was followed by a pair of unprincipled pieces of human vermin masquerading as a journalist and a photographer who wanted to reveal his new location and who were only prevented from doing so when they were pulled over twice by the police. And they were most indignant about it too, as if the police had somehow prevented justice from being done. Am I the only one who thinks that these two goons should be in jail for what they tried to do? At the very least, their mugshots should have been on the front page of every newspaper in the free world. Instead, we got nothing, not a whisper, not a peep. If not for the internet, nobody would even know that this outrage had taken place. Yet we know all there is to know about every empty-headed celebrity. Free speech is becoming a very dangerous business in Europe, and the media are on the wrong side. Ultimately, however, what is there to say about such a spiteful and irresponsible mentality? Maybe there's a word in Danish that would do justice to two such ugly-minded pieces of human trash, but I can't think of one in English. Cockroach doesn't do it. That's a gross insult to cockroaches who are noble in comparison. Scumbag, scuzzbucket, slimeball, none of these words even come close. Ah, of course, you beat me to it, didn't you? Progressive.